Hey Pretty Girl Club, welcome to Diabolicals United, Episode 2. Today we're going to talk about how to use negative attention to your advantage. There are a lot of celebrities who have done this throughout the years. Some examples that come to mind are women like Taylor Swift, Kim Kardashian, and Rihanna. So when you look at Taylor Swift, a lot of people called her a covert narcissist. A lot of people called Taylor Swift a snake. But instead of quitting the music industry or stopping her passions, she actually created merch that had snakes on it. You know, she put that phrase, covert narcissist, she wrote that into her song. And so that's tip number one. It is to embrace negative attention. And if the negative attention is correct, like if you actually do have some dark traits, you know, everybody actually does have narcissistic traits technically. You have to have a certain combination of traits in order to really be considered a true narcissist. But technically, every human being does have negative traits like selfishness or pride or ego. Everybody has that. So one of the ways that you can use negative attention to your advantage is by actually choosing to practice radical acceptance and accept the fact that you have done toxic things, or you said toxic things, or you have been shady in the past. That is something that Taylor Swift has done. Another good example of this is Kim Kardashian. She is very infamous. And a lot of people don't realize that infamy, you know, being the infamous girl in the friend group or being the one that everybody talks shit about at your college or at your job, you can actually use that to build your pedestal, because people talking about you, that is actually still a form of social power. So people giving you attention, people making up rumors about you or trying to pick apart maybe your negative personal traits and all that, they are still popularizing you by keeping your name in their mouths. And so in Kim Kardashian's case, this was actually very boosting for her career. And I've noticed another thing that the Kardashians have done is embrace their privilege and even exploit their privilege or promote their privilege or stand on the shoulders of the people who built up their privilege. I don't see multi-billionaire children or Nepo babies. I don't see Blue Ivy saying, oh, hey, mom, it's not fair that I was born rich. It's not fair that I was born to a superstar mom and that I have all these resources. So I'm just going to stay in the background so I can prove to other people that I am not using my privilege to get ahead. No, these Nepo babies or these people who were born with privileges, people who were born with rich parents or famous parents, or maybe your phenotype or your ethnic background, your cultural background, maybe you have these different aspects of yourself and people accuse it of being privileged. Okay, but if you happen to be born a certain way, we live in a society that is not set up for everybody to succeed. So, of course, that's bad. Of course, capitalism is bad. You know, it's bad that billionaires exist. It's bad that there are starving children. But instead of me putting the weight of the world on my shoulders, I'm actually better off filling my own cup, building myself up, being the best that I can be. And then once I feel like I have reached the top, quote unquote, or once I feel like I have reached stability for myself, or, you know, I've reached kind of the pinnacle of my success, then I can go back and help those who I choose to help along the way. I've noticed that a lot of people who feel like they are underprivileged, a lot of people have this mentality of the world owes me something. Like, you owe me, or I get to be mean to you because you are more privileged than me. I get to bully the Kardashians or Blue Ivy, or I get to bully rich people because they are rich. And it's like, okay, you bullying rich people is actually a sign that you're probably jealous of them, because the same people who talk shit about billionaires, if they won the lottery today and they won $1 billion, they wouldn't say, oh, I shouldn't have this $1 billion because it's not fair that capitalism exists, so I'm just not going to take this lottery that I won. No, the main people who are the most angry about your privilege are the people who do not have that privilege for themselves. And by the way, they're not wrong. They're not wrong for their anger, but you are also not wrong for taking advantage of whatever you happen to be born with. So in Blue Ivy's case, or Northwest, or Kim Kardashian, or all these rich kids or people who were born pretty, I'm not mad at them for utilizing their pretty privilege or for taking advantage of the wealth that they were born with. The way that you can really take your power back when it comes to negative attention is to transmute that negativity into something positive. So for example, let's say I am living with my parents or a roommate. Like in the past, whenever I was living with someone and I would get super pissed off and angry, I wouldn't yell or scream or punch the person in the face. I would go to the gym. I would go get on the elliptical and I would run or I would go and do sprints or something like that. And that was a way to kind of utilize that anger or utilize that negativity in a positive way. So I just alchemized it by using that negative attention to improve myself. Another thing that I will do is if somebody is criticizing me, like let's say somebody's criticizing me at work, they're criticizing my hairstyle, my makeup, my body, and I agree with the criticism or I feel like part of what they're saying is actually valid, I will take on that advice. And I have no problem doing that. Like if somebody says, you guys are the Diabolicals United YouTube channel, I will think to myself, well, yeah, I mean, I do talk about dark femininity. I talk about social engineering, social climbing, social strategies, and they are very controversial. So technically, you're not wrong. I do have some diabolical qualities. If they say that, then I can actually learn from that, and then I can go back later and flex that newfound skill that they actually just gave me. I can go back and actually flex it on them later on. So that's a part of why I actually enjoy criticism of this channel or this space, and I tend not to ignore it because it actually helps me to create better content. It helps me to create better imagery. It helps me to strengthen my talking points. And so that's another thing that I've learned. Another way to use negativity or negative attention to your advantage is if that person is your enemy, you can actually take a step outside of yourself for a moment and you can look and say, hey, you know what? What positive qualities does she have? What do I like about her? And you have to be very mature to be able to do this, though. But you can actually examine the positive qualities of your enemy and then take on those positive qualities for yourself. You guys have also noticed me doing this on YouTube. If somebody really pisses me off or if I feel like they are trying to become my enemy, what I will do is I will actually look at their YouTube channel. I will look at all of the strengths of their talking points. I'll look at the strengths of their series ideas and their video ideas, and I will actually usurp and steal those ideas for myself, because if it is not copyrighted, and if you don't have a business license to say you can't talk about XYZ topic, I mean, if you can't legally prove that you are the owner of talking about that specific thing, then I have every right to do that. There are plenty of very large companies that do this. I mean, you guys know the background that I come from. So I come from a background of people who were very privileged, very ruthless capitalists. And so a part of succeeding in a capitalist society is knowing how to utilize the strengths of people who view themselves as your enemies. So for example, do you guys remember when the Beauty Blender sponge came out back in like the 2010s? So there was this sponge that you could get from, I think it was Sephora, and it like helps you blend your makeup. Think about how many Chinese companies or Walmarts took that idea of the sponge, they slightly changed it a little bit, and then they started selling the same product and it was cheaper and worked just the same, or it was better. That is something that you can do to alchemize negative energy or to alchemize the strengths of your enemies. You can actually choose to take on their positive qualities, and if you really want to get gangster with it, you can throw it back in their face and say, yeah, I'm talking about this topic on my channel too. That's a great idea. Or like one thing I used to do at work was if people would criticize my work, like, oh, that's not how you format it, that's not how you do it, I would literally copy and paste exactly how they formatted it, and then I would do it the exact same way. Because then not only can you not criticize me in that area anymore, but now if you criticize me, you're actually criticizing yourself. So one of the things that I love to do is I love to mirror people who see themselves as my rival. I love to mirror them and reflect back to them their own positive leveled up qualities, except guess what? Now I'm the bigger and better version. So that's one of the diabolical ways that you can usurp negative attention and use it to your advantage. Another thing that you can do is you can outlast your enemies. So some people who don't like quitting their jobs, like if you're one of those people who's like, no, I'm staying at this job, a lot of people do that. They will just let the person continue to be negative. They will keep showing up every single day. They will keep staying consistent at work or maybe on social media if people are hating on your Instagram posts and stuff, but then you just keep posting. Eventually that person is going to realize, oh shit, I'm not going to be able to bully her out of this job, or I'm not going to be able to bully her off of YouTube. I can't bully her into getting fat again. She's going to keep losing the weight. She's going to keep doing her hair like that. She's going to keep wearing the makeup. And so by doing that, by continuing and persevering and staying more consistent, you're actually exhausting your enemy. Because remember, it actually takes a lot of energy to give people negative attention or to try to pinpoint and nitpick every negative thing. So while they're talking shit about your weight loss journey, you're actually utilizing that as more fuel for you to lose the weight. When they're talking shit about your diet or, you eating fruits and vegetables, and then they're saying, oh, that's not black people food. Black people don't eat that. You need some chicken. You need some fried chicken and collard greens. Instead of you giving in, you're outlasting your enemies by choosing to still do the same thing over and over. Like, no, I'm going to eat a salad for the next 90 days. There's nothing you can do to stop me. That's another way of transmuting or alchemizing negative attention to your advantage. Something else that you can do is if people insult you, you can find a way to make that insult work for your personality. You can find a way to actually incorporate that negative quality into your personality. So one of the things that I've seen on here is some of you guys will change your usernames. Shout out to intellectual exotical, bougie exotical, privileged exotical. You guys will take these former insults. You're bougie, you're privileged, you're conceited, you think you're cute. You're taking insults and you're actually alchemizing that negative attention into something positive. You are now taking that on as a part of your personality. And you're saying, well, yeah, I am bougie. I mean, I'd rather be bougie than be trashy. So, hey. And then even if somebody does call you trashy, there are actually people throughout time who have embraced that. Even the Kardashians, people have called them the Kardashians. They've even made jokes about themselves and said, we're the Kardashians. Or like I think about celebrities like Kesha. She's another person where people called her trashy, but she would even make music kind of poking fun at that. So that's another way that you can transmute that negative attention. You can use it as a part of your own self-depreciating humor, or you can take it on as a part of your personal brand. You can take it on as a part of who you are. Like, yes, I am bougie. Yes, I am spoiled. Yes, I do think I'm cute. Yes, I do put myself on a pedestal. Who gon' check me? You can have that attitude of who's going to check me, who's going to stop me. And at that point, your self-esteem and your confidence really becomes unstoppable because people realize, oh shit, the more attention I give her or the more I insult her, the bigger her head becomes, or the more confident she feels. And this is why some people say my haters are my motivators, or, my haters elevate me. They'll say phrases like that because those people are actually talking about transmutation. They're talking about alchemizing quote unquote haters into people who just build your pedestal even further. Another thing that you can do is don't be afraid to make mistakes or to change. So let's say somebody makes fun of you in the past. Let's say you were like a pick-me in the past, which, by the way, we have all been pick-me's in the past. So let's say you were a pick-me or something, or you dated a dusty guy, and then your friends are making fun of you like, oh my God, your ex is so dusty. Instead of defending the dusty or defending that relationship or trying to prove yourself, you can just respond like, yeah, and you can just talk about how you've moved on. You can be like, yeah, and now I'm not, so now what? Or if you really want to get diabolical, you can call out parts of them that are dusty. Oh, my ex is a dusty, your eyelashes are dusty, your half wig is dusty, your lips are crusty, your dad is probably dusty, your family is probably dusty, your whole entire bloodline for the past 15 generations are probably dusty. So yeah, let's talk about dust. I mean, if you really want to get diabolical, you can. But the way that I think of attention is a form of emotional energy. It's a form of mental energy that someone is giving to you. Attention is when someone's thinking about you, when they're talking about you, when they're speaking on you. And so energy in and of itself is neither good or bad. The way that I view it is it's more about what you do with it. It's more about what you do with that attention you're getting. It's more about what you do with that emotional energy. Are you going to allow it to weigh you down? Or are you going to use it as fuel like, oh, wow, I must really be the shit. I mean, they're memorizing my outfits. They're talking about my nails. They're talking about my hair. Dear God, I am a fashion icon. I'm a fashion icon. I am literally the fashion icon of this office. I am the fashion icon of my family because you are giving me so much attention when it comes to what I wear. But one thing that you have to remember is that negativity, any negativity that comes towards you, that is really just a push for you to embrace your dark side. It's a push for you to embrace kind of your shadow self or like your dark feminine energy, your diabolical energy. Diabolicals United. Welcome to the Diabolicals United YouTube channel. But that's the way that I view negative attention at this point, because a lot of times when people are giving you negative attention, what they're really trying to do, especially if they're trying to shame you for something, like they want to shame you because you're not a virgin, or they want to shame you because you are starting a business. They're shaming you for going to college. They're shaming you for dressing up. Oftentimes when people are doing this, they just want you to stop doing what you're doing because they are literally threatened by it. They want you to stop dressing cute. They want you to stop talking about certain topics on YouTube. They want you to stop doing certain things. And so what you can do is you can either take it as, okay, this person is threatened by me, so now what? Like you have to decide what you want your next move to be. What do you want your next chess move to be? Do you want to make a move, or do you want to just ignore them? Because some people are just attention seeking in general. By the way, no shade. I'm one of those people myself, especially on social media, because attention helps me to elevate my talking points. But some people in real life, maybe they're attention seeking, so maybe they're just trying to say something to shock you. Like men have done this on dates and stuff like that. They'll just try to do all kinds of crazy stuff, or like even men online, they'll try to say, we're not dating modern women, and then they'll try to tag a bunch of women content creators. Like I've had men try to tag me like, oh, she's a modern woman, or she's a feminist, or whatever. And they're doing that because they're attention seeking. So something that you can actually do that will be to your advantage is you can starve them of attention. You can choose to ignore them. You can choose to like pay them dust. You can choose to let them just keep arguing with themselves or beefing by themselves and let them keep on talking. And then your reality of who you are will speak for itself. Your talent will speak for itself. Your beauty will speak for itself. If you can cut off that person, then cut off that person. I am very pro cutting off anybody who needs to be cut off. Yes, that includes family members. I have no shame in cutting off anybody who I feel takes away from my life. Like if you're not adding anything positive to my life, you do not deserve to be in my life. I do not care who you are. I don't care if you're my own sister, brother, family member. I mean, thankfully I haven't had to do that, but if I did, then I would. I mean, some of my family members have been cut off, some of the more distant family members. So that's another thing you can do to use negative energy to your advantage. You can actually just steal back the energy, take back your peace by blocking that person or by no longer interacting with that person. Another controversial opinion that I have is that karma does not exist, okay? I personally don't believe in karma. If you come in my comment section to argue about karma, you're going to just go ahead and get banned, because I feel like at this point, I have talked so much about building your own YouTube channels to the point where if people want to talk about something, they have their own channels that they can argue on. But the reason that I don't believe in karma is because I believe more so in cause and effect. So for example, the way that karma has always been taught to me is if you punch somebody in the face, somebody else is going to punch you back. And I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that if you punch someone in the face, you might get away with it the first time. You may get away with it 10 times. But eventually you may come across someone that will punch you back. So that's not karma. That's more so cause and effect. I had to punch 10 people before somebody finally punched me back. And so this is how I feel when it comes to life. Like a lot of the people who are bullies at work, or, you know, they want to use their manager position to try to bully you and stuff like that. I actually do not believe that karma exists. And so for this reason, I actually have no problem giving them the karma myself. Once again, that's very controversial, but I've done this before. I've told a story about how I left the last job that I had with Miss Refrigerator. I told you guys exactly what I did and how I basically erased all of the work that I had done, because I knew that by erasing my work once I left the job, she would have to go back and redo about 40 to 50 hours of work. And so that was my way of being the giver of karma. I chose to put myself in the position of giving the karma back to somebody who was trying to use her management position to devalue my work. My attitude was, okay, if you don't think my work is valuable, well then why not just remove it on my last day of work? And then you can do it since you're so good. You know, since you're so great at doing this work, you get to do the work now. And so that is another way that some people will use negative attention to their advantage. It removes the guilt of getting that quote unquote revenge, whatever that means for you. As long as this revenge isn't going to have legal consequences, I say go for it. So in my case, nothing that I removed, it was nothing illegal. It was literally just like maybe some backup documentation or whatever, you know, something to where you had to do it for the job, but it was nothing where it's like, oh, this sucks. If anything, she would have had to maybe call IT or be on the phone with IT for a long time or search through files for documents. So it was nothing to where, oh, I'm going to go to jail or something. So I would say as long as there are no negative legal repercussions, or there's no negative repercussion for yourself, then you, my friend, are in the advantaged diabolical position. For example, this actually makes me think of the feminist movement and how one of the ways that women are using men's negative behavior to their advantage is they are choosing to stop having sex. They're no longer having children at the same rate. They're no longer giving these guys this free energy. You know, they're not giving them their wombs for free or opening their legs just to any random guy anymore, because they are putting themselves back in the power position. That is their response to how they've been treated. They're like, no, if you guys don't treat me properly, or if I don't feel properly pedestalized by you, or I don't feel properly valued by you, if you don't put me on the same pedestal that I at least put myself on, then absolutely not. I'm not going to put you on a pedestal. For what? I'm not going to treat you with all of this respect and grace if I am not getting that reciprocal energy. So you get to pick and choose when you want to reciprocate. Okay, they're giving you negative attention. Do you want to reciprocate to them? There is no wrong answer, by the way. Oh, and that's another way that you can use negative attention to your advantage. Recognizing that this world is not black and white. I personally believe that morals are subjective. So in one culture, one thing may be right, one thing may be wrong, and then in another culture, then, you know, they have a totally different set of morals. So I personally gave up this black and white religious thinking of right and wrong. Like, oh, it's wrong for you to laugh at that joke. It's wrong for you to joke on that person. It's wrong for you to delete your files at work. That's wrong that you don't want to date that guy because he's not rich. You're shallow. You're conceited. You're this, you're that. No, it's wrong to you. Okay, so just because you don't allow yourself to have certain behaviors, that doesn't mean that I personally place those same moral limitations on myself. And so that's another way you can actually use negative attention to your advantage. You get to practice subjective morality or selective morality. You get to pick and choose what exact morals you believe in and when. Because think about it. I'm actually thinking about the Ice Spice thing with her friend Baby Storm. Ice Spice was BFFs with Baby Storm, but as soon as Baby Storm got pissed off, and she got mad that Ice Spice's career took off, Baby Storm said, oh no, fuck that. Now I'm going to throw away all of my former loyalty to you, and now I'm going to be the bad guy. You know, I'm going to use these negative emotions that I'm feeling, and I'm going to try to transmute those negative emotions back onto you, Ice Spice, by exposing your former text messages, or trying to expose that you're a colorist because, you know, you laughed at this dark-skinned rapper. So that was Baby Storm attempting to use her negative emotions to her advantage. I will say I don't think that it worked though, because Ice Spice is still, you know, she's still making music, she's still a celebrity and stuff. So cancel culture doesn't work. So that's where Baby Storm went wrong. That's another thing that you want to do is you want to be very perceptive. You want to understand what works and what doesn't work. And also remember that if you are getting revenge, quote unquote, on somebody, just remember that the type of revenge that could have worked on the last person, it may not necessarily work on the next person. So you have to be very perceptive in analyzing the weaknesses of your opponent. So this could be a coworker that's getting on your nerves. You know, you can analyze her weaknesses. One of the weaknesses of my coworker, Miss Refrigerator, one of her weaknesses was she was a refrigerator. Some of the women at other jobs, they have literally ganged up on the fat woman. And by the way, I didn't do this, but I've seen this before where other women, they don't like this woman and she happens to be fat. So what they would do is they would offer her candies. By the way, these were white girls at my former jobs doing this to fellow women that were also white in the office. So no, I'm not targeting it to a specific race, but they didn't like this one woman and they knew that her weakness was she's going to eat whatever's in front of her. She has no control over her eating habits. So they started offering her candies. They would offer her bread. They would offer her everything to basically fatten her up, because they knew that the fatter she became, you know, it would be harder for her to walk around. It would be harder for her to stay focused. Because if you think about your body's not supposed to be digesting like 10,000 calories a day. So if your body's constantly just digesting everything, you can't focus as well. Maybe you're slower at your work tasks and stuff like that. So they actually sabotaged her. They successfully sabotaged her by understanding what her weaknesses were and exploiting them. And so this is why if you are on the opposite end, let's say somebody is trying to use your weaknesses to exploit you. I talked about that at the beginning of this video. You can either use that weakness to your advantage, like just be open about it, because then nobody can expose you. Like nobody can expose you if you're open about a certain thing. Like if you're wearing wigs or lashes or makeup and you're afraid somebody's going to expose you. Well, they're not really exposing you if you never tried to hide it in the first place. So that's one way that you can make it impossible for people to use your weaknesses against you. Another thing you can do is to simply stop caring what other people think. You can just take it like a G. You can just take it on the chin. You can take any L and just keep on pushing. So you can let people talk their talk and just be like, who cares? Another thing that you can do is you can keep your own ego under control. So let's say a guy says, you're a 6. Instead of arguing back and forth with that guy, no, I'm not. I'm a 7. I'm not a 6. I'm a 6.5. No, that's absolutely not. Don't argue back and forth to try to prove yourself to someone who will never view you as good enough. So that's a very valuable thing that I've learned is I don't have to prove myself or explain myself to haters. I really don't. Haters, actually, other people in general are not your boss. They're not the boss of you. So you know how some people say, you have to take accountability. You have to admit that you did this. Well, technically they don't. They technically don't. They can choose to not admit anything. Like if you're in a relationship and the guy's a liar, if he wants to lie, he can keep lying. And there's nothing you can do to like force that person to behave how you want them to behave. Another way that you can transmute like negative attention is by having courage. So for example, one thing that people do when they give you negative attention or they try to call you out or insult you, they're doing that sometimes because they want to intimidate you. So these are the girls who call out, girl, your hair is fake. Or, they'll say stuff randomly or they'll try to like expose you. They're doing that because they want to intimidate you socially. They don't want you to have that social power. They're intimidated by your social power. And so one thing you can do is you can feel the fear and do it anyway. So just be courageous. You can courageously say, yeah, my hair is fake. So what? And it looks good, and then that's when people start saying you're conceited. Yeah, I am conceited. Now what? At that point, they have lost already because you're actually agreeing with them. One thing that antagonistic people hate is they hate when you agree with them. That's the number one way that you can really piss somebody off. If they say, you think you're all that. Oh my God, you just think you're so cute. Yeah, I do. Now what? At that point, you have transmuted their negative attention. You've actually reflected their negative attention back to them. Another thing that can help you to transmute negative attention into something positive is to understand psychology. It's to be emotionally intelligent. So for example, fear, anxiety, and excitement, those are usually the same mental and physical state, but they're just in different forms. So for example, fear means that you're anticipating something bad, and then excitement is the exact opposite. You're anticipating something good. Anxiety usually means you don't know what to expect. And so you have to be able to pinpoint your own emotions. This is why I talk a lot on this channel about having an emotional vocabulary. I like to show a lot of emotion wheels on this channel because it's going to be very important when you are kind of transmuting these negative energies and all that. It's funny because I'm not even spiritual, but I like using spiritual language because I feel like spiritual language is easier to understand. But you want to make sure that you can pinpoint your own emotions and you can ask yourself, wait, why do I feel nervous when Sarah comes into the room? Oh, okay, Sarah makes me anxious because she has a very emotionally unstable personality. I don't know if she's going to be nice to me today. I don't know if she's going to be mean to me today. Okay, so what do I want to do about this? And then you can make a plan from there. You can choose to distance yourself. You can choose to confront her. Usually I like to actually confront people, but also I'm an ENTJ. So I know that my personality type can be, more on the confrontational side versus a lot of introverts where they're more like, I'm going to get away from this person. Another way that you can use negative attention to your advantage is you can use this to add to your relatability. Everybody experiences negative attention. Everyone has been insulted at some point. Everyone has been rejected at some point. So you can actually use your negative experiences to tell stories later on and say, oh yeah, this is what happened when this guy was rude to me. Or if somebody calls out, you dated a Dusty, or your ex is a Dusty. It's like you can actually use your former Dusty stories to help other people, or you can use it to add to your relatability. Because remember, the people who have kind of this perfectionist spirit, the people who feel like they don't want anyone to see their flaws, usually those are actually the most insecure people. because they'd rather deflect off of their flaws and expose your flaws, but usually they're doing that because they don't want to have introspection. They don't want to look within themselves and see how fucked up they actually are. They'd rather focus on your dusty boyfriend versus their dusty husband, their dusty exes, their dusty life, their dusty hairstyle, their dusty personality. No, they'd rather pinpoint and focus on you. And so that's another thing to remember, is that when it comes to negative attention, everybody has received negative attention, and also criticism and negative attention. That's actually a sign that you're successful. It's a sign that you're doing something correct. And so you have to be open to receiving these criticisms. And of course, you have the right to respond. And you have the right to utilize your social position and social power to respond. So I've noticed that's another thing that people get pissed off by. One thing that people try to do in order to gaslight you is they will say, you should just be the bigger person. Well, no, you actually don't have to be the bigger person. That is your morals. Your morals require you to be the bigger person. I never said that I have to be the bigger person. I can be as petty as I want. I can be as bitchy as I want. I can be as rude or conceited or stuck up or quiet or dismissive as I want. You're the one who puts yourself in a moral box. So you have to remember that if you stay selective with your morals, if you utilize selective morality. By the way, this only works for people who are not religious, or you don't follow any spiritual rules or anything like that. I don't consider myself religious, so I don't have this concept of, oh, if I do so and so, then like such and such is going to happen to me, or this bad thing is going to happen to me, or I'm going to be cursed. I don't have those limitations. No shade to the spiritual people, because if it works for you, then you should do it. But in my case, I like to use selective morality, and I get to decide, does this person deserve it? I mean, if you think about how Chrissy responded to when I talked about her making fun of that light-skinned woman's fried edges and fried leave out, or making fun of Neo and Monietta and their relationship, she said, oh, well, she deserved it. Okay, so what she's really saying is, I get to pick and choose who I want to roast. I get to pick and choose who I want to talk badly about. And so you can keep that same energy. That's actually a learning experience. You guys who watched that, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you can actually take that on for yourself and say, okay, so from here on out, if somebody roasts me, I have the right to roast back. If somebody uses a curse word against me, if I choose to, I can curse back. Some people won't curse back. Some people will. It just depends on your personality and whatever benefits you. My rule is I like to do whatever benefits me the most. So if it benefits me the most to curse in that moment, then I'll curse. If it benefits me to be quiet in that moment, I'll be quiet. There's no such thing as, oh, you have to follow the same exact rules 24/7. No, that's a limitation that others put on you to keep you in your place. Anytime people want you to not rebel against them, or they want to keep their position in society, or, like the pastors and stuff at churches who say, well, you shouldn't do XYZ, you shouldn't sleep with anybody, you shouldn't look at porn, you shouldn't do this. And then behind closed doors, they're over here looking at porn, they're going to strip clubs, they got a side baby. They're doing all this crap because they want to have the power and control over you. But the way that you take back that power and control is by becoming your own boss, becoming your own pastor, becoming your own spiritual leader. And like I said, if you're religious, you'll probably be offended by this video. You should probably not even be watching this video, but not being afraid to show a range of emotions and be a multifaceted, multidimensional human being, that's actually very powerful. Having a fluid identity, that's why I talk about that so much on this channel. Having a fluid identity, I'm not just talking about in terms of race and culture, or in terms of like being multicultural. No, I'm also talking about my morals, my personality traits. I get to utilize selective authenticity. So I have the right to downplay certain features or certain aspects of myself, and I also have the right to play up other features, and I have a right to do it differently tomorrow. That's what having a fluid identity is all about. It's about being able to be a chameleon and work differently in different spaces. And yes, people are going to say, well, you're being fake. You're a fake person. You're fake. I'm real. I keep it 100. I keep it $1. I keep it 150. And it's like, okay, well, congratulations for being the realest person in town. But I am the most socially powerful person in town. So it's like you have to decide, what's more important to me? Do I care the most about being real? Do I care the most about having social power? Do I care the most about financial stability? Do I care the most about my family, my relationships? That is all up to you to decide. So you can't shame others when they made a different priority than you. Like some people prioritize money. Some people prioritize their religion. Some people prioritize themselves. Some people prioritize a certain type of beauty. Others prioritize their relationships. Every human being you come across has different priorities. No two human beings are exactly the same. And so don't let other people shame you for making a different decision than them. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay diabolical, ladies.